because we are on about Insigne and how he would fit in Inter, I was thinking of what would be the combined 11 of Napoli and Inter. So I've made my own combined 11. I've asked you to prepare your own combined 11. So first off, what formation did you go for?
I just went for a 3-5-2.
You went for a 3-5-2, right? Okay. Because I've got three versions. I've got a 3-5-2 to match Inter's, team. I've got a 4-2-3-1 to match Napoli, and then I've got like a 4-3-3. So it's kind of neither one nor the other. So you went with the Inter one. So I say let's go through your formation, and then we'll go through mine, and then we'll see, where we diverge.
Yeah, but the main reason why I went for the 3-5-2 is because I think the place where we're most stacked is like at the back, because there's no way I can leave Koulibaly out. So I had to make a sacrifice of one of Inter's three centre backs. So that's why the main reason for the 3-5-2. In goal, I think there's no argument for me in this. This is the easiest one I think that we'll discuss in the whole segment is Ospina.
Okay, glad you said. So I'm gonna be writing down your formations, and then I can see.
Yeah, Ospina over Handanovic. I don't think I need to talk about it too much.
Prime Handanovic was pretty good, but we're talking about right now. If you had a cup final tomorrow, what would you pick? Yeah,
exactly. So loads of respect to Handanovic. There's no disrespect to him, but Ospina right now, especially in the form he's been in this season as well.
Incredible.
Usually he's kind of been up and down, isn't he? He's a bit of an inconsistent keeper, but this season is just top class. So Ospina in there. Then three at the back is Skriniar, right centre back. Then we've got KK in the middle. So sorry, Stefan de Vrij had to miss out, and then Alessandro Bastoni as the left centre back. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, in my 3-5-2 formation, it's exactly like that. So yeah.
And no knock on Stefan de Vrij. Once again, I think he's just had a little bit of a drop off in form this season, slightly from his usual high standard. So, and Koulibaly, I think he's gone back to his peak levels. I feel like this season, I think he's
elevated it even more. He's in the form of his life at the moment, and that's why Napoli have not conceded so much as well. Is because we've got Ospina and Koulibaly in the form of their lives, as well as obviously tactically how Napoli play. But that has definitely a role in it. And I personally went for Skriniar over de Vrij also because I like a team. I like a team that attacks and not is aggressive, and I feel like Skriniar is a bit more aggressive than de Vrij. So yeah, I mean, if I were a coach of a team, I want them, the center backs on the halfway line, getting right up there, and I feel like Skriniar is just a bit more aggressive. So anyways, continue with your 3-5-2.
Yeah, so in the regista position, so the CDM, so this is I know this is one that you're going to argue with me about. This is I've gone for Marcelo Brozovic over Anguissa, Deme, Olio Mandem there.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening. Keep going.
Oh, I feel like Brozovic, he's always been quite underrated, but this season I don't know if it's the contract situation where he wants to work for or convince the club to give him the new contract, but I think he's at his best start to his to a season at Inter. He's just been, he's had two or three man of the match performances in the Champions League. He got the award in the Champions League for the man of the match. In general, just he's been so consistent. He's becoming more of a leader as well now. He's 29 years old. I think, passing, covering, he's the number one in the Serie A for kilometers covered on average per match. He's just that workhorse, but also quality. But obviously, it was hard to leave out Anguissa because the way he started this season has been, probably the surprise of the season for me, in terms of the signings coming into Serie A, physicality, ball carrying, dribbling, everything. But I would pick Brozovic myself.
Okay. Yeah, I'll save my explanation for my formation. I'll save it for then. So you've got Brozo in the middle. All right.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is, but for the record, I don't think is like, oh my God, what did you say? Like, he is objectively like a good player, and he's elevated his game this season. And since the past few seasons, when he's become that more of a regista player, he's been getting progressively better. So
yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. So, it's not something wild, but let's see what the rest of the midfield is, because I think judging a player just, by itself doesn't really make sense. You got to judge him in the context. So there's some players that perform better when certain guys are around them, other players a bit differently. So let's see who you've got around Brozovic.
Also shouts out to Spalletti for that one. That's a Spalletti special, because he's the one who converted Brozovic into the regista, and then he hasn't looked back since. He saved Brozovic's career pretty much.
Yeah, made him epic.
Yeah. So the right centre mid, I've gone for Nicola Barella. I think he over the past year or so, after the Euros and everything, I think he's become world class now. I think he was on the cusp before. I think he's now genuinely world class. He's added he's added that final product that we were all saying that this guy has the potential to add. He's already got more assists than he ever had before. Probably still needs to add more goals, but he's getting there. And yeah, once again, like Brozovic, he's gonna cover every blade of grass. He's gonna win tackles and provide that quality as well. I think he's just the perfect box-to-box guy to have. And then left centre mid. This one was a difficult one, to be honest, because that, again, as I was talking to you about the Inter, for Inter, there's no one that's really established in that position at the moment. But even for you guys, I really, really like Zielinski. Like, I was a big Zielinski fan. I think last year he was probably right up there for Serie A midfielder of the year.
Yeah.
But this season he's just kind of been a bit meh.
Dropped off a cliff this year. Yeah.
So I don't really. I wanted to. If we talk about in general, then I would put Zielinski in there. But right now we're kind of talking about current form in this season, so I can't really put Zielinski in there. So I probably would put Anguissa in there just to fit him into the team, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like having that dynamic, and I think he could play that role as well. I think he could be a decent Mezzala.
For sure. Yeah.
And then for wing backs,
I knew you'd find a spot for Anguissa. I knew. I just knew. That's why I waited.
Yeah, Lobotka was as close.
I was like, if he hasn't, I'm like, he's gonna come to his senses as he speaks. He's gonna realize that he needs Anguissa in that midfield.
You're just lucky that no one's like solidified that spot. Yeah. So wing backs wise, I think left wing back has to be Perisic for me. Even though Mario Rui has improved a lot this season under Spalletti, and he's not been the liability he usually was in my eyes in the past. But I just feel like in the formation, and once again, Perisic, similarly to Brozovic, they're both on their final year of the contract. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, but they've been stellar, both of them. Like Perisic he's very inconsistent. That's always been his thing in his career. But this season, every single match has been, 7 out of 10 pretty much. Physicality, aerial ability, goals, assists. Like I think he's a complete wing back now. So he's my guy left.
How's his defending?
Yeah, his defending funnily enough, he was already a good defender last season. I preferred him to Ashley Young last year, even though Ashley Young was supposed to be the more experienced one. But yeah, Perisic is just because he just applies himself. I think Conte taught him perfectly well, and he's very reliable defensively.
That's good.
Yeah, and then
he's clear of Mario Rui in that position, I think.
Oh,
because he provides that attacking quality and that 1v1 that Mario Rui can only dream of. And Perisic, like this year, the crazy stat where he scored a penalty with his right and left.
Yeah, exactly.
Mad. Mario Rui can only dream about scoring with his left, and he's left-footed. So, it's Perisic is clear in that position.
And a right wing back. I think that this one again is Inter don't really have someone that's super established himself. Like Darmian's had a good start to the season, and he was good under Conte last year as well. Dumfries, we mentioned that he's not really convinced at the moment. So I have to go for Di Lorenzo. Although we could maybe Lozano. I could see Lozano playing as a converted as a right wing back. I could see him possibly playing that role. What do you think?
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
I disagree. I think Lozano, his biggest weakness is defensively. He doesn't cover. So he's a good player. I think he requires someone behind him at all times, like a Di Lorenzo, like what we have at Napoli. I'd be very worried if I had only Lozano to rely on defensively. He's a great player going forward, but just seems to like switch off when he's a ball watcher. So he doesn't track runs. He likes to look at the ball and like go press it and not really realize what's going on behind him. So that could be a bit dangerous. Having said that, you've got Skriniar, Koulibaly, Bastoni behind them, Barella nearby. So maybe not, too bad. So, but I think the form that Di Lorenzo is in this year, you can't drop him at all. So if we're talking about who am I playing tomorrow, and we're going with a 3-5-2 on the right, Di Lorenzo is the first name on the team sheet almost. So, he's scored a goal against Verona. I scored for Italy. He's in the form of his life at the moment, and he's really, really something special this year. Lozano, a bit like Zielinski. If this was a video done at the start of last year, we would have maybe put Lozano there because Di Lorenzo was nowhere to be seen and Lozano was saving Napoli. But at the moment, it's not been great for neither him nor Politano. So Di Lorenzo is the only option there, is what I think.
Yeah, he's a mainstay in my Fantacalcio team. I haven't taken him out one match day yet, so keeps getting the points to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that must be very, very good for you.
So moving on to the final two, my strikers. I think it's an easy one again for this one because we've got two clear candidates for this. As Edin Dzeko for Inter, who's the top scorer this season, but not just that. Bringing people into play, his touch, his IQ, great player who's clearly been rejuvenated with the new motivation. Playing, you clearly see at Roma, it was just like the end of his time and fell out with Fonseca. So, I think he's just been one of those guys like Giroud. Him and Giroud have been like the most underrated strikers of the past decade or so. So it's good to see Jekyll getting his flowers now. And next to him, obviously, Vittorio Osimhen has to be. The guy is just beast mode at the moment. This season. The guy is just everything complete forward. And I saw that. That's one of the reasons I was, proponent for Spalletti, because he always does that with his strikers. He always manages to eke out everything out of his striker, and he's doing that again with Osimhen.
Yeah. So, for reference, as I said, I did three formations. My 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, whatever you want to call this formation, is very similar to yours. The only difference that I have, well, there's two differences. I've got Frank instead of Brozo in the middle, and then on the right, or I've put Barella on the left of the midfield, and then in Barella's spot I put Fabian, because I think Fabian has had an absolutely incredible season. He's already got more contributions than all of last season combined, and I feel like in this moment he is one of the most informed midfielders in Europe. The only reason he's not getting called up for Spain is because apparently he had a bust up with Luis Enrique during the World Cup, because Luis Enrique wouldn't play him. But otherwise he'd be in that Spanish national team, and he's been incredible. And having a player like Fabian is one of those players that when the game is locked at 0-0, there's always a possibility that he's going to score a worldie. When you just can't find the way through, when when that defense is sitting deep, you've got a player with his quality on the ball. I mean, you guys felt the full force of that at Inter when he scored a worldie against you guys in the Coppa Italia semi-final.
Yeah.
That game was going to be a draw. But the ball falls on Fabian Ruiz at the edge of the box, you're done. Like, man doesn't miss. Like, at the moment, he's in the form of his life. And as I said, if this was like a cup final, you want game changers. And for me, Fabian is a game changer in that midfield more than any other, I think, of the midfield. I think Barella and Fabian need to be there. Between Brozo and Anguissa, to be fair, I can see arguments for both. I would put Anguissa just because he's got just that presence, that touch, that calmness, that physicality. Brozo has elements of that as well, but I'm just blown away by Anguissa. But I can see how you'd want either or. But Fabian, I feel like you can't not have him in that team at the moment. If this was again a few months ago, then I wouldn't have put him on the team. But at the moment, so
I think that's another Spalletti credit, because I said that in my season preview. I said that look out for what Spalletti does with Fabian Ruiz, because I felt like he was going to be kind of his Brozovic, or not, like he's kind of that guy that he always seems to pick a guy in a team that, you know, he manages to get something out of. And I think, as you said, I think, he probably could end up being the Serie A midfielder of the season, probably, if he continues like this.
But yeah, it's been great for us so far. And then I love the Dzeko Osimhen, because see, I was thinking of picking 3-5-2 as my formation as well, purely for that Dzeko Osimhen partnership, because Dzeko is so good at linking up. And I feel like that's exactly what Osimhen needs. I feel like right now Napoli are playing with, you know, the three at the front and Zielinski behind. Zielinski's not playing great, and the three at the front, you've got Insigne and then the Politano, Lozano situation, and neither are really getting close enough to Osimhen to link up with him. So it's always either crosses or long balls, and that becomes very predictable. Which is why we've seen a drop off in Napoli's scoring over the last four or five games, because teams are understanding that. All of a sudden, you put an extra striker like Dzeko next to him, the music changes. And we're not talking about, you know, you could say, why doesn't Napoli do that with Petagna? I mean, we're talking about Dzeko. We're not talking about Petagna. We're talking about Dzeko. Like, Dzeko is Petagna, you know, times 1,000. So there's a reason why Napoli doesn't do that at the moment, because it's Petagna. Not a bad player, but it's Petagna. But if we had someone like Dzeko in our roster, then for sure he'd be playing alongside Osimhen one way or another. And I think Spalletti would adapt the formation to do that. So for sure, I feel like we're pretty similar with that. I did do a 4-2-3-1 as well, or a 4-3-3. Which one do you want to hear? I'll pick just one. 4-2-3-1, which is Napoli's base, or 4-3-3. Right, 4-2-3-1. So I've got Ospina in goal.
Yeah.
Di Lorenzo on the right, Skriniar, Koulibaly, and Di Marco on the left.
Interesting. You like Di Marco?
I like Di Marco. I like him because he scores off free kicks, which is something that I think you need a left footer, you know, that knows how to take set pieces. And he's young. He's 23. I feel like he's got energy. He's got motivation. I was so undecided between him and Bastoni. If it's three at the back, I'd go with Bastoni on the left. If it's four, maybe a bit more Di Marco. Mauro Rui had a good season so far, but if it's a final, I don't want to rely on Mauro Rui, because I don't know what I'm going to get out of him. It's like so far so good, but if he loses his head, he loses his head. And then that's a red card, or that's a stupid yellow, or, you know, it's hard to recover him mentally once he's gone. So, you know, imagine walking into a final and you're relying on Mauro Rui. I don't wish that on anyone. So, you know, great player. Great to have him in the team for a season. Not my thing for a one-off game. In the middle, I've got Fabian and Frank. So
Wow.
the two at the in there, just because it's working so well for now. I think the thing that's going really well for Napoli is the midfield, and then I've got Barella in a different position to what he's playing now. So this is where like the 4-2-3-1 sort of is not maybe ideal for this group of players, because as I said, for Napoli we've got that number 10 spot, which no one's really doing that well this year. We've got Elmas, Unas, Mertens, Zielinski. No one's really shining. At Inter, we could put maybe Çalhanoğlu there, but am I really going to put him in a combined 11? You know, that'd be disgraceful of me. So I said, you know what? Let me put Barella there, and let's see if that could work. Ideally, these three would be in a 4-3-3, so it would be like Barella, Frank, and Fabian. But because we're doing a 4-2-3-1, because you asked me to, then I'm going to put Barella as a number 10, and we'll see. I mean, he's got really good close control of the ball around the box as well. We saw the goal against Belgium, for example, where he moved the ball, he shifted it from one foot to the next, and then scored. So it's not like him playing in tight spaces near the box is out of the question.
Conte played there a couple of times, or a few times at the start of last season, but it wasn't great, but he did
not
play
ideal
them.
Not ideal. I admit that it's not ideal, but it's a 4-2-3-1. And then on the outsides, I've got, I didn't want to put any of the Politano, Lozano in there because I want to be able to go into Napoli Twitter without getting absolutely, destroyed by half of Napoli Twitter. So I'm going to say I'm not going to put either of them. They're both super subs. And everybody's upset instead of everybody's happy or 50% happy. So I've put Perisic on the right, which is him then having to be an inverted winger. He's done that.
We don't know why his actual foot is.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like he can do a bit of both. Obviously, his favorite is his left. He likes to cut in, and I think that could be a nice little thing, having that symmetry with Insigne. Also, obviously, Insigne is going to be on the left because in a 4-2-3-1, I think that's his like prime position. And in a combined 11, with Insigne being the guy that's contested between the two teams, how can you not put Insigne? So Perisic, Insigne out wide, and in the center, this was tough between Dzeko, Lautaro, and Osimhen, but it's a strange one. It's a strange one because I put Osimhen. I put Osimhen, right? But then I'm thinking, if it's a final, if it's a Champions League final, do I want the experience of Dzeko in there potentially? Do I want the guy who's got a few more big games under his belt? So that's where I'm just so torn between the two, because if it was a regular game, I'd probably just say put Osimhen in there. Put that freak of nature, build a team around him. But if it's a one-off and Osimhen's not scored yet against any of the big teams, that's been a bit of his weakness recently. I mean, the comments are going to go crazy about this, but maybe Dzeko.
That makes sense to me.
If I was a coach, Champions League final, big game, and you're going to be against a team that's not maybe going to give you obviously depends on who's in front of you, but if it's a team that's going to give you space, then put Osimhen. But if it's a team that's not going to give you too much space, that's also got quick defenders, then maybe having a player like Dzeko. So it's a tough one. Give me a team and I'll tell you. Give me like a team, like who would be in the Champions League final against this team, and then I'll tell you which one I'll choose.
Bayern Munich.
See, in that case, I'd go for Osimhen.
Yeah, because they would give you space in behind.
They'll give you space. And not the quickest of center backs. And Osimhen scored a double against them in preseason. So for that, I'd do Osimhen. But if it's like a Man City,
Chelsea.
yeah, if it's a Chelsea, I wouldn't go Osimhen. If it's a game where it's against Chelsea, I would go for Dzeko.
Yeah, and you
So
can whip balls and DiMarco whipping balls in.
yeah, interesting one. That's the only one I'm 50-50. It depends on that's where me as a coach, that's where I would adapt based on the opposition.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd be interested to know what the comments say about that.